This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the President, COO, and Chief Geologist for Fission Uranium, Mr. Ross McElroy. Ross, how the heck are you?
Doing well, Gerardo. It's been a while, but we're doing pretty well, thank you.
It's been a few months. You had news this morning. Fission's commencing the pre-feasibility study for the underground-only option at the world-class PLS project. Now, obviously, you have a multi-pronged approach. Can we talk about the details a bit and why you feel it's important to look at this option exclusive of the other scenario, right?
You bet. I think what's pretty unique about the PLS project and the Triple R deposit in specifically is the fact that we do have flexibility. As we showed in our pre-feasibility report that we put out in April, we can look at mining this as an open pit. We can evolve to an underground. And we also had another look at this to see if we can develop this as an underground deposit. And it looks like we can, and hence that's why we're going down the path to do an underground-only scenario. Our preliminary look at it shows that it has some improved economics, say, opposed to the open pit scenario. There's advantages to both, but I think you're pretty hard pressed to find any project anywhere that has, the ability to choose multiple types of conventional mining, and so that really, gives us a lot more flexibility for our path going forward.
Ross, let's be very frank, right? The stock is had a rough summer of it, despite the fact that you have about 10 million cash in the bank. You have a world-class deposit. You have an offtake agreement with a world-class partner. Can we talk a bit about the potential numbers around this underground-only option at PLS?
Sure. Well, and you're right. It has been a rough go lately in the market, and I think that's uranium in general. We could talk about that in a bit, but specifically on this project, when we look at an underground scenario, one of the main things that it does is we'll have significantly reduced capital expenditures. So, what we saw in our first look at is we're shaving off around $300 million if we choose to go with an underground scenario, and that's because of the berm wall needed to build the open pit itself. I'd say that the key is shaving a lot of capex off the top there, and also reducing the time of construction to be able to go into production. So going from 4 years to 3 years. Otherwise, it's you're dealing with almost the same resource. You're dealing with very, very, very low operating costs. The open pit showed just under $7 US a pound, and the underground scenario is just over $7. I mean, they're about 50 cents a pound difference, but both extremely low operating costs. But we just think it's worthwhile to advance this underground case and see if that's maybe the way to develop the project going forward.
You mentioned it shaves a year off the time it would take for you to get into production, and we know from past uranium bull cycles that a year can be infinity in terms of profitability and margins, right? When you get that violent upside that we've seen in the past, you definitely want to be in a position to capitalize on that. You touched a bit, or I touched a bit, on your world-class offtake partner. How is that relationship, and how receptive are they to this underground-only option?
Well, very good. We have an excellent relationship with CGN, one of the large state-owned utilities in China, one of the two major ones. We've had that relationship since the beginning of 2016. It's very strong. They're very supportive. Everybody knows how important China is to the future of the uranium sector, the nuclear fuel. That's where all the growth is. They're a very supportive partner. I think, they're supportive of whatever way looks best. If this thing shows itself to be best to develop as an open pit, they're supportive of it. If it looks like underground, equally supportive. We all know that this is a world-class asset, and we feel very strongly that it will be developed. We're just going through the motions of trying to fine-tune and pick the best way to go forward.
Excellent. With the recent Section 232 decision that pretty much put things off until October, right? Have you seen more either institutional and or retail interest in the uranium space, and specifically in regards to fission? I know you've been on the road a bit.
Yeah, well, I think the first reaction when it was hot off the press was viewed negatively, obviously, for the U.S. Producers, because there wasn't a quota put on there, and then alternatively, the other uranium stocks moved upwards. But then I think people looked at it and saw that there's an additional 90 days out there, and I think that's of another review, and I guess that's put a little bit more uncertainty yet again into it. I think we're still going to be at the same place that we were prior to the announcement, in July. I think 90 days out from now, that would be mid-October. I still think, Canada and, these Athabasca projects will still be, in a pretty favorable position. But, of course, there's still uncertainty in the market. And that, I don't know who's buying right now. It seems to be a little gun-shy for some of the institutional investors. And maybe retail. But I'll tell you what, I am starting to, get a lot more phone calls by interested parties, people that are, they see the inevitability of the improvement in uranium. They think it's going to improve in the short term. And, I'd say in the last 2 or 3 months anyways, we've seen a great uptick of interest in the sector, despite what you might be seeing, share price-wise. I do think that we're starting to attract people that to come back into the nuclear sector.
Fantastic. Ross, I know it'll be a busy second half of the year for you. Thank you today for the update. And as always, I'm looking forward to having you back on when you announce details of the next step.
Yeah, you bet. And real pleasure to update, on what's happening with our project. Just to note, it was in the news release, but we're looking, for having this underground only PFS results by, late August, early September. There really isn't any field work to be done. It's just re-engineering, the look at the underground, crown pillar, that kind of stuff. How do you access it? It's just a little bit more detailed engineering in that aspect. So it won't take very long, and it's, not really a major undertaking by us. Is 2 months from now we should have our results.
Good stuff. Looking forward to it, Ross. Thanks again.
Very good, Gerardo. Thanks very much.